Welcome to the Audaci-Tea, the podcast by women for women. We are so excited to have y'all here, especially our newest VIP member, Muriel. Thank you so much for being here. Let's give Muriel our warm studio thank you.
Woo! Yeah.
We love our VIP members on Patreon. Please make sure you check that out if you want to receive exclusive content that we publish every week. And we also have a very fun blog post coming next week on our Patreon. So please make sure you check that out. Make sure that if you're listening and enjoying the show, that you give us a 5-star rating so that we continue growing and being promoted alongside other podcasts. And this week, we're talking about why we are child-free and just some of our thoughts on having kids, the societal pressures, everything that has to do with that. And I have Sovereign with me for the intro.
Hello, hello, hello.
And don't worry, y'all. Gwen is in the episode. You will be able to hear all of her thoughts on being child-free as well. She's just out for the intro today. That's all. All right, Sovereign, let's get into it. I know what my tea is this week, but what has been on your mind?
Just the regular fuck around and find out videos been really taking off. Everyone is reporting these, and I'm always finding new videos of new MAGA people regretting voting for Trump and admitting it, which I'm kind of shocked about that.
You know, I have found that they are usually pretty vocal about that, but it's always surprising to me that like they just didn't know or didn't care or didn't bother to look it up.
Yeah, there was a really nasty post that I seen on TikTok, and actually I seen that so many people shared this exact same post, and I'm just like, what in the world? I don't know if this was just if it was like a rage bait post or if this person was serious. This is what it said.
Oh, God.
When are y'all gonna get it? We were listening. No one actually cares about egg prices or gas prices. We care about cleaning up the bloodlines. Grapist can finally choose the mother of his children.
Wow.
A bunch of people share that, and I seen it a good 4 times over the past like couple days, and I'm just like, so don't get me wrong. I know everybody doesn't feel that way, but it just makes you wonder how many of them do. And I just thought that was very interesting.
Sounds like a pretty hard cope, actually. Like,
you think so?
Oh, yeah, we totally I don't know, we didn't care about the eggs and the whatever, just because Trump already came out and said that he can't do anything about the grocery prices. So I feel like now they're just pivoting and they're like, yeah, we knew that. And they're just covering up with, but my thing is, why are you covering up with like such hatred and such, I mean, that was what you thought to say? Like, that's crazy.
Right. And I just thought of something else too that I thought was kind of funny. Have you been seeing the posts where everybody, I'm not going to say everybody, but a lot of people are saying Elon Musk is the president?
Yes. Well, he came out and kind of confirmed it. He said not officially.
Yeah.
Somebody asked him about it, or Benjamin Netanyahu asked him about it. And he said, so are you like basically the president? And Elon goes, not officially. And he's like, oh, okay, so you're the unofficial president of the United States.
And I've been seeing these memes of like Donald Trump on a string, a bunch of strings, and Elon Musk is like puppeting him or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually curious if this was his plan all along, or and I'm talking about Trump. Actually, both of them. I'm wondering if it was both of their plans, or if this is going to make Trump upset. I'm wondering how he feels about this. Like, they both are very egotistical. So
I was going to say, we're having a narc-off.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that bothers him now that he can see. I'm assuming he knows that people are like, basically, Trump is the first lady and Elon Musk is the president. So
it makes me so happy. I know it hurt his feelings because he came out and said, well, you guys know he can't be president, right? Because he's an immigrant.
That's what he said? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he said he wasn't born here or whatever. But
his wife wasn't either, right?
Right. No, she wasn't. And his child would have to be also deported under their new immigration laws or whatever,
You know what's funny? I honestly don't even think if let's say she got deported under their new, like, I don't think he would care.
Oh, absolutely not.
I don't think he would.
No.
If anything, he might be behind shipping her out of here. Because I don't know. I've never really got the feeling that they were really in love.
No. And at this point, too, she's not even pretending.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah. I don't think she can stand him. And it's just like,
I think the first go around, she was kind of like playing the role. But now she's, I mean, like, you haven't seen her. Who's seen her? Like, where has she been? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's just
she's
weird.
Not even out here.
I'm pretty sure she's probably getting paid to just like stay married or, you know, who knows. But yeah, I'm just wondering what's going to happen with this power struggle, this pissing contest that they're eventually going to be in if they're not in already.
They're in it already. Here's the thing. Narcissism is like one of those really funny things where you have to realize that these people are stupid. Like people that suffer from narcissistic personality disorder. Yeah. And I know this is going to piss them off, but whatever. But like, you have no plan. You have no plan. You're going with the flow the whole time. Right. Like that's why a lot of times it seems like they don't know what they're doing. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. Like, yeah, that's because they're just they're flipping a coin.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
The goal is not to do something. You know what I mean? The goal is for them to make themselves feel powerful. That's the goal. The goal is not to like run the country or to like something with their business. Like, yeah, that's all part of it. But at the end of the day, what they want is to feel powerful, for one of them to feel more powerful than the other. And it's just this power struggle. And I think Trump will get sick of it soon enough and just kind of, we might get lucky with this one. He might just kind of unhand him and just be like, you know what, get the fuck out of here.
But I do wonder if he does that, how is Elon gonna take it?
Right.
Like is he going to want to get some revenge? What leverage does he have? Because I know that there's leverage somewhere. I know it got to be.
Pop the popcorn.
It has to be leverage somewhere. Like I gave $500 million or $1 billion to your campaign and you're going to do, you know Trump, what I mean? It's something. But, there's something.
But I feel like Trump is going to be like, okay.
Yeah,
like
that's probably
that money's gone. Like he has said that to a lot of people in the past. I'm sure.
He has. No, I don't. And by the way, I don't know if that was the exact amount. I'm just throwing a number out there.
Right. No, he gave a lot. I do remember it was being kind of like a very round number.
Which to me just means that he bought his way into.
Absolutely.
Like it wasn't. You know how celebrities will give money to really just support the person that they want to see in office. But for Elon Musk or anybody really to give that amount of money, you are trying to buy a spot. Like you want to be a decision maker. You want to get credit for something or whatever. Because nobody's throwing that kind of money at no presidential campaign for nothing. You know.
Well, I think that's why he was appointed to lead that department. the Department of Government Efficiency that is run by 2 people. Very efficient.
To me, I think that's just another cover up for something else.
Oh, yeah.
A front for something. Because what?
Oh, they're going to sell off government assets. That's what they're going to do. Because they're basically saying it's the Department of Government Efficiency. And Elon Musk has been on Twitter, like, and all these like randos are sending him like screenshots of stuff and like random shit in the budget, right? That they don't understand. None of them have been trained to read these things or like know, what's going on. And they're like, yeah, what is this? Something about diversifying the climate. The climate does not need to be diversified. What is this DEI everywhere? And Elon is like retweeting it being like, yeah, we're going to cut this, whatever, like pointless stuff. And it's like, no, diversifying the climate means something different. It doesn't, every time people hear the word diversity now, they freak out and they think it's like a diversity, equity, and inclusion thing, which is also good.
Right.
But it actually means like we need to diversify the climate as in like we need to have different like trees and plants like to help the climate. Oh my God, it is exhausting. It is exhausting watching him reply to these people, none of them understanding what is going on at all. They're cutting like cancer research from bills. Like at this point, Elon Musk is like cutting things from bills on the government floor, on the Senate floor. Like it's crazy. I just can't believe that he's been given so much control and so much like his opinion holds so much weight, which it is just that. It's just an opinion.
Right.
He doesn't have an official position yet. It's extremely frustrating.
He has concepts.
Yeah, exactly.
Concepts of official position.
Yes.
It's so annoying.
My God. Well, my tea is a little bit different. So do you remember back when the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard fiasco happened?
Yeah.
And how it gave me a weird vibe right away because I had never seen such a strong opinion about like a celebrity court case, you know, before.
Right.
And it was like Amber Turd this and Amber, you know, pooped in the bed and like all this stuff. And they were just, you know, all these flagrant like things like, oh, she lied about what makeup she used to cover up her bruises. And like, it seemed like everybody was kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And then do you remember what it turned out to be?
Then they closed the case? I can't remember.
So it turned out that he basically hired a PR firm that does this thing called astroturfing.
Okay.
And so basically they go and start posting all of these things on Reddit, TikTok, Twitter, and they are basically trying to sway the public opinion that way.
Okay.
So they were presenting things from the case, but like they were doing it in like a meme way. Like even when Trump was getting elected, do you remember? And they were saying like, oh, Russia's helping him like get famous, whatever.
Yeah.
That's like a form of astroturfing. Like they're just dropping like funny memes or whatever that people can repost.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so unbeknownst to us, that's actually been happening a whole lot. And the reason I bring it up now is because we're finding out now that it happened to Blake Lively in the midst of the whole It Ends With Us premiere. Do you remember like her and like the director of that movie, Justin Baldoni, were like showing up to events separately? Like people started noticing during like the PR, you know, push that none of the cast and crew was really getting along, whatever. And then stuff started coming out all over the place about Blake Lively, like about her being mean to somebody in an interview. Like I covered that on my TikTok, like just random things about her, like being a mean girl, being a bully. Now, did they have like receipts? First, in some cases, yes. Like in some cases, there are examples of her behavior being like not great. And like I said, I've talked about it before too. But it turns out, so she's now suing that director for sexual harassment. So apparently he was on set talking about her boobs. He was on set talking about his, like, she basically had to have like a big HR meeting with everybody and be like, okay, no more, Justin, talking about your porn addiction. No more talking about your past, like, sexual exploits. No more telling me that like I look hot, but not in character. Like he would be like, this isn't my character talking. This is Justin talking. Like your boobs look hot. Walked in on her breastfeeding, like did all this crazy stuff. And then the court documents allege that he hired this like PR firm to basically astroturf about her so that the public opinion and all these women in the PR firm were like texting each other back and forth about it. Like, oh, hell yeah, he's going to love this. The public hates her. Like, da-da-da. Like, I don't even agree with all these people that are defending him, but we did our job.
Wow.
There's so much to talk about in that entire situation. But it's just be aware, everybody, that we are living in a new era. Like we have entered a new era of like the internet and like public opinion. And basically it's kind of like putting out a hit piece on somebody, right? Remember when Trump took out that front page ad in the New York Times to call for the Central Park 5 being like executed? They're basically like doing this with the internet now. They're like, no, like Blake Lively sucks. And like, if if there's like any kind of beef with like her and this Justin guy, it's definitely on her side. Like she did something wrong because look at all this stuff she's done in the past. Let's all talk about it.
Yeah.
And it works every time. It works like a charm. Like it worked with Amber Heard. It's working with Blake Lively. And I just wonder how many other times it's happened and like what other women it's happened to. And it's just crazy that this is what PR firms are charging people for. This is what they're wasting, like spending their time on. Like,
I cannot believe that people are okay with waking up every day and going to clock in to basically try to ruin somebody's life. Like that's your job, is to make up rumors or get unflattering photo or whatever they have to do. It's like, how are you okay at night to go to sleep? How do you look at your
the way that they're talking about it, it seems
terrible.
like it's perfectly fine. Like it's very unsettling just like reading those texts between women. And then one of them came out and like tried to defend herself. Like
you can't defend yourself on something.
No.
Like unless you say that these higher up powers that be put a gun to my head and told me that if I don't do it, then they're gonna blow my head off. Outside of that, there is no explanation to me. I mean,
that was unfortunately not the case.
And it seemed like they only do this to women, but on one hand, I really wish that, I don't know. I wouldn't want to have anything to do with Hollywood, honestly. I don't know how. I guess you have to be a certain type of person to like stay and endure that type of stuff. Because I think about a lot of like actors or singers or whoever that was in like the entertainment industry that got in, they were super successful, and then they just disappeared. And in my mind, I'm like, there's a few people that don't want anything to do with that lifestyle once they find out how sinister things are behind the scenes and whatever else, and they just get out. And then the people that stay in, the longer you stay in, sooner or later, your reputation or whatever will be ruined, it seemed like. The longer you stay, the more you have paparazzi following you, or you're trying to be on the front pages of everything or whatever. Like the longer you stay in it, sooner or later, it's like something's going to happen. I don't know. If it was me, I would just get the hell out of there. But I would have made my money, got the hell out, got the hell on out of there, moved out of LA, moved away from all the chaos. But see, when it comes to the stuff with Amber Heard and Blake Lively and the women participating in that type of stuff, in my mind, I'm like, these women are typically male identified, in my opinion, because women wouldn't really have much to really fight and argue over, especially nothing serious, if they were not in competition with one another or trying to tear each other down because of jealousy or whatever. But a lot of times women do these things because they are trying to get male approval or just for the sole purposes of wanting to bring another woman down. And it's always going to be women, unfortunately. Because I in my mind, I'm like, all we got to do is just all stick together and all of these things will go away. But there's always going to be women that they just... And that is so frustrating.
It's extremely frustrating.
It literally takes a certain percentage of us to make a change. And it seems like it'll never be enough of us to stand together and make these changes, because we are super powerful. Just like when we think of Operation Film Freeze, we can end people's careers overnight. We can end a lot of like workplace harassment and all that stuff overnight. Like we literally can if we all stuck together and believed each other and stood up for each other. But there's always going to be those women. And I always say pick me women are why the rest of us can't progress as a group. We can progress individually and, dissenter men and whatever else you're trying to do in your life. If you're trying to be successful, you can absolutely progress individually. But as a whole collective of women, especially in this country, pick me women or women who see women as competition instead of sisters, whatever that is, they are the hindrance to us progressing. And I hate that so much. And I really, there are a lot more women that are starting to wake up to that, but it's just not enough.
And I would say to me too, it's like with pick me women, follow the same advice that we give about men. you have to decenter them too.
Yep.
Because a lot of people were worked up about the cooking with Kaya thing. Like, and I see the point. I'm not trying to make fun of the point that, you know, she's directly going against feminism by saying that you should be cooking for your man or else I'll do it. Like, whatever. She's promoting like all these like old timey, whatever, regressive opinions. But at the same time, if we just stopped centering her and if we just didn't pay attention, like if women didn't get all worked up about it, you know, their man watching a Cooking with Kaya video, then nobody's getting the attention that they so desperately want. Not the pick me and not your dusty ass boyfriend who's trying to get your attention with this, oh, look, I'm watching a girl, you know, cook and she also shakes her ass and she also tells me that she'll cook breakfast for me. As a woman, you should just be like, okay, best of luck. Send me an invite to your fucking wedding.
Exactly.
And just leave. Like, what are you doing?
I don't actually know too much about her, and I haven't watched really any of her content, only the clips that's been circulating. The vibe that I got, and I could be wrong, I could be so wrong about this, but the vibe that I got, first of all, I thought she was kind of cute and adorable.
Oh, like, she's very cute.
You know, like, I think it's cute that her food looks good. I can't taste it through the screen, but looking at it, I'm like, yeah, I would definitely try her food for sure. I don't think there's anything wrong with what she's doing. I feel like she found her niche and it's working for her.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see the problem. I do say that the vibe that I got was that she knew what to say to get a guy audience. And she knew that the men would be. Yeah. That's really the vibe I got. And then when she's talking about, I'm going to take your man, I feel like a lot of that came across to me. I read into that as her being sarcastic. And because a lot of women are coming for her and giving her death threats or whatever else. So she's like, okay, and that's why I'm going to take your man. To me, that's where it came from. I just didn't get evil intentions or whatever, but I did get, I'm being petty because y'all fucking with me. That's what I got. And she has every right to do that because I'm petty as fuck. When people, you know, come for me and come bothering me in my comment sections, I'm going to be so petty. So, and she's super young. 22 or whatever? I don't know how old she is, but very young.
Yeah, I know. To be piling on like that too.
And I'm like, most of the people who I seen complaining were like way older than her.
Exactly.
The men who are like, y'all women need to be like, they were like 40 some years old. Like, why? Don't y'all got a daughter? Yeah. Don't y'all got a daughter her age? Y'all are just weird.
Why don't we address that first? Yeah. You know, instead of coming for her.
And the men were just using her as triangulation. That's all it was. That's
exactly. And that's what upset me is that so many women fell for
it. Yeah, they did. How are y'all mad over a woman on the internet who y'all are never going to ever see in real life? Your dusty baby daddy or dusty husband is never going to come across her in real life.
Exactly.
I don't know if she's even in a relationship or not. I hear she's not. So
yeah, that was my favorite part
doing this for
like, the guys being like, oh, she'll cook me dinner. Sir.
She ain't cooking nobody nothing. Okay.
The delusion, the true delusion. It is like infuriating to me, and also it's hilarious.
It's very
that
hilarious.
You would just like come up to your girlfriend and be like, look what it's like. It reminds me of like kids on the playground. Like, oh, my friend said, like, what the fuck? Your friend goes to a different school. Like, they're probably not even real. Like, have you ever met this friend? No? Okay. They live in your phone, honey. Like, they're not going to book a ticket and fly to some butthole town and cook you breakfast. You should be grateful you even have a girlfriend. Oh.
Exactly. And also, too, one of the biggest lies ever told to women was the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So there's women out there that are like, I'm cooking for my man and I'll take your man, and whether they're serious or not. But there's women who really believe that. And I in 40 years, I have never, and just about every woman that I've ever known knows how to cook. I have never seen a woman's cooking ability keep her from being cheated on, keep her from getting her ass whooped, keep her from being left, keep her from being left to be a baby mama. I have never seen that in 40 years. So I really wish women will let that lie go. I'm pretty sure a man came up with that as a way to use women for free labor, like they always do. Let's triangulate women with other women as far as cooking and looks and body shape and whatever else. That's all they do is triangulate.
It's just men telling on themselves.
That shit does not work. It does not work. It never has worked and it never will. If a man wants to cheat on you or if he wants to do right by you, he's going to do it because that's who he is as a person. It has nothing to do with your cooking abilities or how pretty you are. Every beautiful woman in Hollywood has been cheated on. All of them.
Exactly.
Like 100%. So that doesn't mean anything either. If y'all haven't figured that out yet, y'all got a long ways to go in life. None of that matters. So I just want to throw that out there. But also Kaya, she didn't bother me at all. I think she's cute. And I'm glad her platform, apparently she had a certain amount of followers before that happened. And then she's up to 1 million or so. I don't know. I haven't seen it. That's what I heard. And I'm happy for her. That's all I got to say. Like, I'm just like, what's the other, Sophie Rain. I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard her name lately. But no. Yeah, I'm glad these women are capitalizing on the stupidity of men. I love it.
It's like a redistribution of wealth, you know?
Absolutely.
And it's also a free, I don't know what to call it, test, like something. It's a free something. Like it lets you know if your man is a dusty. That's it. If he ever comes up to you with the phone
litmus
saying...
test? Is it litmus test?
Yeah, litmus. Thank you so much. Yes, it's a litmus test. It's a vetting strategy, okay? If your man is stupid and dusty enough to do that, then just... leave him alone. He's not for you. He is literally for other women. He is for the kid. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say. So thank you.
That's funny.
Well, that's our tea for this week. And we are very excited to bring y'all the main segment on why we are all child free. And we're going to let Gwen take this one.
Yay.
Today, we're going to be talking about what it means to be child-free and childless and what the differences are. So I'm going to let Sovereign explain the difference and definitions to y'all because she had a marvelous TikTok about it.
So a lot of people like to use child-free and childless interchangeably, and they are two very different things. Childless really implies that there is something missing. So a woman who's childless would be a woman who wants to have kids, or maybe at some time in her life she wanted kids, but she didn't have them or couldn't have them for a specific reason. Maybe she didn't meet the right guy in time before she hit menopause, or maybe she put her career first and then she looked up and looked around like, oh, wow, I forgot to have kids and now it's too late. Maybe she's infertile. There are some women that can't have kids for medical reasons. But all of that really just implies that the woman is childless. Child-free women are women who purposely make the decision to not have kids. So a childless woman will have kids or would have had kids under certain circumstances, even if it was like the economy. There's a lot of women right now that they're like, I would love to have kids, but I can't afford it. Right? So childless women would or would have had kids under the right circumstances. Child-free women don't want to have kids under any circumstances. So that's the difference.
I had this thread on my Twitter, and for my Twitter followers listening out there, I just want to preface this by saying I should not expect some of my posts to do the numbers that it has. I created my Twitter to laugh at the memes, and it's just gotten way out of hand. But yeah, I've kept up with it, and I'm so glad y'all are here with us. And now we're supporting the long-awaited podcast with my friends. So thank you guys. But yeah, so the question asked was what is your pet theory on why the birth rates are dropping? And it's since been deleted because it got blown out of proportion because most women were responding similarly to what I had said. So I'll go ahead and read it. Women wise up to the fact that majority of men want kids in a way a child wants a puppy, knowing full well the mom is going to pick up after it and do most of the labor required. Men don't train to be loving, empathetic, and present fathers the way women are expected to be mothers. There are no rewards given in society for having children and sacrificing the woman's mortality. Jobs are lost, and mothers are all but publicly shunned and punished when their child starts screaming and crying. There is no village, and there is no financial kickback. There are no third spaces where children and young adults can go to be with their peers without the expectation of spending money. Everything we could have as a resource became microtransactional and subscription-based faster than we can regulate it or predict corporate greed. If you ask men why they want kids, their answer is usually furthering the legacy. Not because they think they would be an exceptional parent to it, not because they want to build a deeper connection to the woman they love, not because they provide any real future or material. And before having kids, women should be asking potential mates about their future preparations for a child. Ask men what their experiences with children are, if they help their moms around the house, and what their savings for a house and childcare looks like. Be stingy, stingy, stingy with your wombs, ladies. Our daughters have learned that having children isn't a fucking game. A child is not a prop for status. It's 20 plus years of commitment. Your parenting partner will be the most important decision you can ever make, and only women seem to be the ones taking it with the seriousness it deserves. What I mean is, ask men, when was the last time you were expected to put something to the side because of how it might affect your future wife? When was the last time you looked up the cost of diapers, formula, clothes, wipes, daycare, education, transportation, houses, car seats, cribs, groceries for 3+ mouths, toys, books, the availability of teachers per student ratio in your district so your child has the best chance of growing up salient with access to resources, where your local parks are and public libraries, if those are even safe, if you have genetic conditions that affect your child's future, if you checked in with your own health, if you've thought of where your career is headed in the next 10 years, like retirement, your child's college costs, and how you would settle marriage disputes. If you haven't thought of any of these or more in the last year, then you just aren't ready for a child. Get a dog. Ladies, don't have babies with losers that don't even consider anything beyond tomorrow.
The Twitter thread that started it all. Like, when I read this, I was like, I have to just read this verbatim to my audience because, it really encompasses a lot of the things that women are just getting really fed up with. And also, these are all things that, thankfully for us, married women and women with children have come online and said and warned us about, or even just them complaining about these things puts a spotlight on these things and leads women to making different decisions, which I'm really, really thankful for.
I agree. That was very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you. It was actually one of my followers that had sent that TikTok to me of you reading my thread, and it got me so starstruck. I was like, oh my God, it left Twitter. Yeah. I'm truly honored to be here because both of you women have such amazing platforms where you've said some of the same stuff I've said to women over a couple years, that is just be very careful with men. And the feminism that we have now is it puts men too much on a pedestal, and it doesn't focus enough on women, and it doesn't build this selfish confidence in yourselves.
Yeah, it just expects women to take loss after loss after loss.
And don't complain.
Yeah, and don't complain.
And do it with a smile.
Exactly.
No matter how much you're dying inside.
Yeah. And also, no matter how much you do, you're still never going to be a good mom. Do it all, but it's not going to matter.
I just was radicalized because I've spent my entire childhood with a lot of men and male role models in my life. So being raised by my stay-at-home dad, up to joining male-dominated martial arts at the age of 6 or 7. And I'd like to think my instructors took it upon themselves to train me better than the boys to keep up and not be excluded. I had all these experiences and memories with men in my life, and I'm fortunate enough as a little girl that they were all positive. As I grew up, I learned the hard way that these experiences were the exception and not the general rule when it came to fathers and male figures, because I got the best of the best growing up. I saw very easily how a lot of men my own age just fail to measure up. And that's exactly what my father wanted. This is every decent father's hopes and dreams for their daughters, is just to find a decent man with good morals, a sense of discipline, and principles. And I just think so many men lack these. And so finding a partner for most women, even if they did want a child, that's hard. And I concur. But why I'm child-free is because I truly believe that this world does not deserve children. And it's common sense, I thought. But I'll tell you why. School shootings, for one, let's start there. You think after the one time in Columbine or Sandy Hook or even Uvalde would be enough to legislate some security measures so children at their place of learning don't become target practice for deranged psychopaths? Words fail me at this point. And we don't even have the infrastructure in place to feed them while they're at these schools or give them health care. We have to call the default parent, usually the moms, just to give the kid a Tylenol or their inhalers, or have them just take them home altogether. So moms usually get punished at their jobs for having to step in and be a parent, while the opposite isn't true for fathers. Like, y'all ever heard of the motherhood penalty, fatherhood bonus?
Yes.
I'll explain for the listeners. Like, women's earnings decrease after having children. This can be due to a number of factors, including hiring managers being less likely to hire mothers and offering them lower salaries when they do. The motherhood penalty can also be due to outdated social constructs and gender role stereotypes that view women as less committed to their jobs after having children. And this is a cited article from, let me pull it up. It's called The Medium, of why the motherhood penalty and fatherhood bonus are more than just feminist issues. And they have works cited from like Duke University and all these other important places. I'll get to that later. So every time like you're the default parent as a mom, it reinforces that gendered role that you're more dedicated to your family than the career that pays you. So you can even afford to be a parent. So it's a Looney Tunes level of catch-22. And meanwhile, like men's earnings increase after having children. The fatherhood bonus can be estimated to be between 3% and 10%. This phenomenon can be a result of men's professional careers benefiting from having a wife and children. Excluding any economic factors here, the main reason why I'm personally child-free is because it's an insane loss in status for women to have children. Like, you become a mom first over anything else. Like, I remember reading this Reddit post that was so sad. This new mother described that the people in her life don't even call her by her first name anymore. It's just mom or the mom. And birthday or Christmas gifts that she received are only for the baby, like pumping devices or cribs or car seats, while the dad got fun stuff for all his hobbies. She was saying that before she gave birth, she was a hiker in her group of friends and a scientist, both of which she had to give up. Her hiking group kept going off on trips without her, and she quit the career she worked 10 plus years on in school to become a mom full time. Her post put it into perspective for me, because for years we would tell women that having kids is the most special thing she can do, but also that it's just not important enough. Her careers, her hobbies, her wants and needs just pale in comparison to a child, but we don't expect the same of the husbands. That's just when I knew what my mom meant back then when she said, don't have kids unless you're prepared to do it alone, because quite frankly, like, you are alone. There is no village. There might be some attentive and good dads out there, don't get me wrong, but pregnancy, birthing, and nurturing, that's all done by you, the woman, the mother. Which is why, like, I just forever hate the phrase, we're pregnant. You ever hear men say, we're pregnant?
Oh my God. Jail.
Jail. Right to jail, for real.
Straight to jail.
I feel like I'm both child-free and childless because the reason I could be childless is because I live in Texas. So need I say more?
Yeah.
The choice was all but made for me. If I wanted to change my mind, like, I can't. The 6-week abortion ban came into effect immediately after we lost Roe, a trigger law. For the men listening, 6 weeks is our period being late for 2 weeks. In other words, it's not enough time to decide whether or not a woman is pregnant. Like, sometimes our periods can skip a whole month. While it's abnormal, it's not uncommon for us. Mm-hmm. Abortion is also not uncommon because complications can and do happen. So in my case, my family has autoimmune issues, which can be life-threatening or exacerbated in a pregnancy in my case. For others, they find out within the first or second trimester if the child will even survive after birth, or God forbid, it has already passed in the womb. In such cases, an abortion is medically necessary to expel the tissue safely so as not to go into septic shock and possibly die. I'd like to be able to save my own life in such cases, so would my doctors, without their license getting taken away. And for the men listening, are we seeing the point? Are we understanding why women might be upset about this? Like, imagine if you didn't get a say whether or not you live or die because the state controls you. Imagine your wife having to sit you down and tell you that even if y'all both wanted a child, we would have to flee the state because a medically necessary abortion could be in her future due to family medical history putting her life on the line. Our mortality is not a gamble. Too many women in red states have already died, that even the ones that wanted their children, but they just didn't survive. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm childless because even if I wanted a child, the choice has been taken away from me entirely, and I don't want to die.
I'm so sorry.
I know.
Yeah, it's fucking terrible. So while I'm definitely child-free, as in I don't want kids, and I've never, really looked at a woman with children, and I mean this in a very, respectful way, I've never looked at a woman with children and been like, I want this. It just has never been in the back of my mind that my life is great, but if we had a baby, it would be better. Or if I just wish a baby was here right now. I've never thought that in my life. And I feel like that decision got only easier to make after I taught for 6 years. I got to teach preschool, kindergarten, and first grade. And I loved every second of it. I loved all the kids, and I had so much fun, but it was really and truly the best part of every day was like the end of the day when the kids would go home. Because no matter how fun it is also extremely exhausting. Like dealing with kids is extremely exhausting and requires insane amounts of like emotional regulation unless you're okay with just going insane or like not having the kind of life you want to have. Along with that, I'm also child-free just on principle. I'm child-free on the principle that society already expects way too much of women. Like I'm already doing too much just to exist as a woman and at my expense, at women's expense. Like the government does not subsidize me to look pretty or wear makeup or do my hair or anything like that, but I would get punished for that in other ways. Like if I tried to be taken seriously without, hair done, makeup done, whatever, then I would be punished for that in some way or another. And I just refuse to contribute children to that kind of society. I refuse to participate in the institution of pregnancy and childbirth because, mind you, as Gwen said, it is an institution. Like they do get to tell you what to do. Like you are by default when you say I'm pregnant and you go to the doctor and they do like your ultrasound and everything like that, all of that whole process becomes in other people's hands, especially if you live in like a red state. Like you're, like Gwen said, like you're giving up your autonomy. You're giving up your ability to like survive in certain ways. Like you're just leaving it up to chance. You're leaving it up to these institutions. And honestly, if my holding out creates better conditions for women who do want to have children, then eventually I'll be even happier that I didn't have children. Like hopefully, some of us holding out will force the government to give like more incentive to women who do want to have kids, because my ultimate thing is like women should have a choice. They should be able to do whatever they want. Like if you want to procreate, that's fine. And if me holding out creates better conditions for women to procreate in the future, then I'll be happy about that. But as far as like all my other reasons, let's just start with the fact that the people who want you to have children the most are religious zealots and capitalists, most of which are men. The people most concerned with falling birth rates are not other women. It's Elon Musk and his buddies. That's because women are being used as vessels to create more consumers, and those children are being groomed into consumerism instead of being allowed to develop their own tastes and preferences and personality. Instead, they're exposed to advertisements and peer pressure. And these capitalists don't care about the well-being of these children. They just want them to grow up and buy more shit. That's why they don't regulate, apps for kids. That's why it's so easy to make purchases. And it would be even easier if the government hadn't stepped in and been forced to do something about it. They want more consumers at the end of the day. They don't care about overpopulation, global warming, the fact that people are being enslaved to make certain products. And those are children too, by the way. The children that are digging up lithium in mines and diamonds in mines, those are children too. And nobody gives a shit. They cry about children, but force them into these mines for profit. They destroy the environments in which those children grow up and treat children in general as disposable, especially children from other countries. So it's not and never really has been about the children. It's always been about consumerism from where I'm standing. Like if you just step back and take a look at it, it's like these people do not care about children, even though they will straight up say they do. And the religious zealots are the same in that they're also using women as vessels for children who are going to hopefully grow up and stay in the same religion and church and be part of the Lord's army. There's even like certain things that fundamentalist Christians say, like, oh, we have a quiver full of arrows for the Lord. And that's where like that whole quiverful movement comes from. But the idea is that we got to out-reproduce. It's a very racist idea at its core, but it's things like we got to outpopulate the Muslims, things like that, where it's like a race. It's like a who has a bigger army kind of thing. And they want Jesus to have the bigger army. And so, yeah, that's basically their hope, is that women are going to pop out a bunch of these kids, and statistically, 1 or 2 of them is going to stay in the church and replace the population of the church. And this Lord's army is also made up of men. Like, it's not like women even get a chance to be in the Lord's army. they're going to be used as vessels. They're going to be used to create more children. And so all of this is happening at women's expense. That's like the part that I want women to take away from it, is that a lot of times you think you're having a kid because your man wants you to have a kid, or like your parents want a grandchild, or like the church needs more soldiers for the Lord. But nobody cares like what that costs you. It's going to enrich them, but it's going to cost you something every time as a woman. I think that's horrible. Even when politicians are encouraging women to have children, it's never for the women's benefit in any way, right? I don't know if you guys have heard of the whole phrase, like, lie back and think of England. When England was trying to blow the population up, that's basically what like politicians were saying that straight up to women. Yeah, like go home to your husband and then lie back and think of England. Like think about.
That's gross. Like sex isn't for pleasure. It's just to do your due diligence as a woman, or like your only role is to make the population bigger. Like that's barbaric.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's happening at your expense. And so all of these like armies, and like the worst part is that like it's happening at your expense to prop up the horrifying world that men built. They don't want it to fall apart though, because then everyone's going to see how useless the men really are. Like all of these armies, institutions, capitalism, religion, in my opinion, that was all built by men to prove their worth. Women's worth is obvious, that's why like they're considered spoils in a war and not disposable soldiers like the men. That's why men are like, oh, men have always protected women from other men. Like, yeah, why? Think about that. Why? How would you make people if you didn't have the women? If you sent the women to war, you wouldn't have a population left. So women are just used as like this kind of commodity to pop out children.
We've seen what happens when we treat women as disposable, because China had that one-child policy. And now when you look at their population demographics, there aren't a lot of young people now to replace the aging population that's slowly phasing out of the workforce in order to like be able to retire. Because that would have been whenever we would have had like a boom. They didn't have that. Hold on, let me pull up the statistic. Yeah, so China has one of the fastest growing aging populations in the world. The population of people over 60 years old in China is projected to reach 28% by 2040 due to longer life expectancy and declining fertility rates.
Yeah. And that's what you get when you fuck around and find out. And I have a TikTok that talks about this. Like it's basically a closed loop that, yeah, you can treat women like shit all you want. But in the end, like at the end of the day, that just gives them more bargaining power. And that's good. That's good for women, but not immediately. It's terrible. And yeah, I mean, I have a bunch more reasons, but I think Gwen, you covered a lot of them, just like the whole pay gap thing and just how different women are treated than men because they have kids. It's like, oh, well, obviously you're going to suck at your job now that you have a kid and a man won't. Or like, you're going to be taking all this time off now. And like, just mothers are punished for being mothers in every way. And like I already said,
the self-sacrificial aspect is very much one-sided. Like it's not expected of the fathers to be in any way, shape, or form to be self-sacrificial to the point where you're sacrificing your hobbies, your career, your old life, quote unquote, before you had the kid. So I just don't see it as rewarding to have a kid for any personal reason.
Yeah, exactly. And nobody's ever going to pat you on the back and say you're doing a good job as a mom. They're only going to find things wrong with that. And the only person that's ever going to get like rewarded for doing the bare minimum with your kids is your husband. And you can never do anything right. Like if you breastfeed, like nobody wants to see it. If you formula feed, you don't care about your baby. If you don't give your kid electronics, then that's weird and your kid's going to be weird. But if you let them have screen time, now they're an iPad kid. Like all of these things. If you're a stay-at-home mom, you're a freeloader. But if you're a working mom, then you're an absentee parent and you care about your career more than your children.
It's just been a catch-22 for women for way too long. Like, it's just never been an incorporated enough society to raise mothers and have this, like, motherhood status as being praised and put on a pedestal that I feel like it should have been in order to create a more sustainable society where motherhood is, like, cherished and protected, respected, and all these other things that mothers just need to feel supported enough to have a kid.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, like, this isn't some beautiful utopian society to bring children into. Like, and that's why I refuse. Like, we're openly talking about water wars and watching climate change destroy community after community all around the world. Like, we're bound in every way by capitalism to survive. And while most of the wealth is hoarded up above, where we or our children are never going to see it. And it's trickling up there faster than ever due to tax deregulation. And I wrote this, by the way, before Trump was elected. So just know that everything I'm saying is 10 times worse than how I wrote it. Not to mention deregulation in general, making our infrastructure, medicine, food less safe every day. There's been like these major listeria outbreaks, all of this crazy stuff. Like, why would you have a child like post 2020? It's crazy. People act like just because they have a kid, it means the future has to get better somehow, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Look at Russia. It's been 30 years and they're still in complete collapse. Complete collapse. It doesn't, you having kids has no bearing on that. Like, your kid is not going to be the one that like changes the world and makes it a better place, like most likely. And in fact, like having kids means you're going to do less for society, because having kids is a trap in our society, is a trap and a drain of your energy and resources. And so you're not going to be motivated to be involved politically or in your community, which is really the only way to make the world a better place. So it's like all of this is also by design, and having kids just makes the cycle continue on and on, because they have no choice when they grow up but to go to work or sign up for the army or become a capitalist themselves in order to survive and not be a drain on society. So yeah, I just don't think we value human life around here, especially the pro-life people. And the brunt of that is borne by women. So those are my reasons. Sovereign, hit us with yours, because we need a little bit of a lighter perspective around here. But the world is hell right now. So no, it's not going to be getting my genetics.
So I would say for me, growing up, watching my mom struggle to take care of 6 kids, watching all the women around me struggle, I knew from a young age that I didn't want that life. Because I used to watch men beg women for babies. Like, oh, I want to have a son, or I want to do this, I want to do that. And watching men beg women for babies, and then when they get bored, just walk out on them. Because, now they're just like, oh, I don't like you anymore. Now they got caught cheating. Now they got caught doing this, or they just took off, or they kept going in and out of jail. And that was the part that solidified that I would probably end up a single mother, on top of the fact that I'd never wanted kids. And so one of the things that people say to me a lot is, well, if you pick the right person, then you don't have to worry about that, which is so stupid, because I'm like, most people think they picked the right person. And a lot of guys will switch up on you after you're trapped in some way. Like you get married, or you move in with them, or you have a baby by them. And I paid attention to that my entire childhood, all the way up until I was a teenager, that I just didn't want that life. Fast forward to now, the way the world is, the fact that, like y'all were mentioning earlier, Gwen, there is no village, you don't have any help. None of the systems in this country are in place to help you. You're demonized, especially in the Black community. I don't know if y'all know this, but in the Black community, I tell women, plan on being a single mother, because it's like, unfortunately, that's a thing in the Black community. Like, the men are going to take off sooner or later. The marry before you carry thing that doesn't apply in today's world. Most women that I know who married before they carried or whatever are all divorced. So in my mind, you're going to either be a single mother, a married single mother, or a divorced single mother. Either way, I don't want to be either. No, I'm so
it's
serious.
So true.
Like,
yeah,
I'm
so
just
true.
like, I don't want to do it.
I don't want to be a mommy bang maid.
Yeah.
But for me, I look at the biggest thing is not making my life harder than it has to be. Because I'm like, life already has its ups and downs and its challenges. Being a Black woman in America is already challenge enough. Mm-hmm. And then we have to work, we have to pay bills. I remember we were joking on my live one day, maybe a couple months ago, and we were like, all we did was open our eyes one day and we were here. And now we're grown and now we got to pay bills and we didn't ask for any of this.
Right.
and we were joking, but we were serious at the same time. And it all boils down to this. I don't want to make my life harder than it has to be. Once I found out when I was about 10 that you could choose to have a baby or not, my mind was made up. Because I want to say I was about 7 the first time I thought, I'm scared. Babies come out of where? I don't want to do that, and I was terrified for the next few years, like thinking, oh my God, when I get older, I'm going to have kids. I was 9 turning 10, so I was in the 5th grade when I found out that you could choose to have a kid or not. Because I remember talking to one of my mom's friends. Oh no, one of my auntie's friends, one of my mom's sister's friends, and I heard her say, they were gossiping about a woman, and I heard her say, I don't think she want any kids. And I waited until my auntie left, and I asked the friend, I was like, wait, a woman don't have to have kids if she don't want to? And she looked at me, confused. And she was like, yeah, but women are going to want to have kids sooner or later. I said, no, but I'm saying if a woman, I heard you say that whoever they were talking about didn't want to have kids. So women don't have to have kids if they don't want to. And she was like, well, technically, no, you don't if you don't want to. And when I tell y'all the weight that was lifted off my little 10-year-old shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
Basically my mind was made up. And
that's so funny. I feel like I was like the opposite of that. I always thought you didn't have to have kids. And like,
oh yeah,
all of a sudden, I got married young and people just started asking us like, so when are you having kids? Like, what's up with the kids? Like, and I was like, oh my gosh, I thought it was a thing you had to decide to do. Why are you guys like trying to decide for me? It's so weird.
That's so funny. It was an opt out. Wait, what do you always say?
Yeah, I thought it was an opt in, but turns out like you thought it's an opt out. Like everyone assumes you're going to have a kid until you say that you don't want a kid. And I'm like,
right.
Oh, that's so weird. Cause I thought it was like a huge decision. Like,
yeah.
Anyway,
the way you looked at it actually makes more sense, but that just goes to show you how indoctrinated we've been.
No, exactly. Because I grew up, my mom was a single mom and all her friends were single moms. And so it was like very much, they weren't having any more kids. And, it just wasn't, they were all like career women and I guess like feminists by all means, even though they wouldn't call themselves that. But they were like, yeah, I'm not having any more kids. They all were like one and done. And yeah, so I just thought like.
Shout out to the one and done mothers out there. I totally get it. Yeah, I swear I do. But yeah, so growing up, throughout the years, everybody told me I was going to change my mind when I grew up, or when I met the right guy, or I'm being selfish and blah, 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 lickety-splee. And I'm 40. I just turned 40 at the end of October, and my mind has not wavered, and it's not going to. At the end of the day, I remember my video that went viral was the one where I said when I wake up in the morning, all I have to worry about is do I want coffee or do I want tea? Yes. And I'm never changing that. Like
so real.
I'm never change. I never have to worry about really anything else. Well, this political climate now, there's plenty.
They're going to give you something to worry about.
I know.
For real.
But that's one less thing. That's the one thing that gives me solace. No matter what I go through in life, no matter what happens to me, I'm going to always be grateful. At least I'm going to feel like at least I didn't bring kids into this.
Yeah. I've never once had a situation where I just thought to myself, like, what would make this better? A child.
Right.
Like, it's never. My life is constantly just dealing with one thing after the other, where it's like, I don't even know where I would be able to fit in a child if I had one.
I wouldn't either.
Right. Well, that's what like a lot of women don't think about. And that's why their careers and their hobbies and everything just gets ripped from them because all of a sudden you're just in this position and you're like, wait, I didn't, I had a friend who like got pregnant and she had like told us about it on a girls' getaway trip. And she was saying about how, excited she is and everything like that. And she was like, I'm kind of nervous about the labor, but whatever. And our other friend who had kids already, she goes, oh, you'll be fine. Like, it's just going to be a couple pushes and then, they'll stitch you back up and you'll be done. And she goes, they'll what? They're going to what? She's like, I don't want to have this baby anymore. What do you mean?
Oh my God.
So there's just a lot of people assume a lot of things are going to go well. Like, that's my other thing is like,
yeah.
Even if people are like, oh, like I have my husband, like don't worry, like I'm not worried because I'm gonna have a man, like he is like he can get hit by a car. Like
facts.
he can
Not
like
the
lose
car.
his ability to work. Like he can become seriously injured. He could develop a disease. Like it doesn't matter. Even if he is the best guy in the world, like Gwen's mom said, you should always, always, always plan on doing it yourself. Because if there's anybody it's going to fall on, it's going to be you. And so, yeah, even if your man goes to work and makes a great paycheck, but say he works in construction or whatever, say he commutes to work every day, like a lot of horrible things happen. And, then people always think they're going to have a healthy baby. Well, what if you don't? What are you going to do then? A lot of people don't, it doesn't even cross their minds. Like it's just completely like, oh, we're going to have a baby. Like, okay.
Least of all men, it does not cross
Yeah.
their mind at all.
Yeah.
If they have any like genetic issues that they could potentially be passing on, because they're not aware. I don't even think they ask. Like I never hear men at any like family gatherings ask like the men in their family like, what are some issues that grandpa had or like or like your nephew or like
Oh,
it
for
just,
sure.
it's always us.
Yeah. And that no one ever anticipates. People don't think about this stuff, in my opinion. Everybody believes that those types of things happen to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not going to happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people suffer from that. And it's like, I thought all that through. I'm like, and I'm not saying that I would love my child any less if they had a disability or something, but that's going to make your life 10 times harder right there, just because of the health care and things that are involved with taking care of a special needs child.
Especially in America where the healthcare is not guaranteed.
Exactly.
And they punish you for being sick. Even if you are on insurance and the insurance is supposed to be taking care of that, the insurance makes it stupid hard for you to get any coverage at all. Like I have a very specific medication that I have to inject in order to just like exist comfortably in the world. And to get that covered, I have to go through what's called a prior authorization process that lasts anywhere between like 2 to 4 months. And one time it lasted like 6 months and I almost had to get lawyers involved. And as soon as I threatened litigation, that's when it finally like things started moving.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's like their whole job. They're just middlemen, there to tell you no when your doctor says you need something.
Yeah, even when my doctor is the one saying like, yes, she does need this medication. Like she has this and this condition. She's already gone through these and these trials. She's met every other prior condition prior treatment method that could have possibly been used, and all of these have not worked. Therefore, this is necessary and like needed because all these other like creams and steroids and everything that we've thrown at her have not worked. And so it's just it's stupid hard because it's like I don't remember y'all passing any sort of like medical bars or like any sort of like test. Like I think it's called the MCAT. I'm not sure what it's called. The one where doctors have to pass in order to become a doctor. I don't remember y'all having a doctor's degree. Why do you think you know more than my doctor?
Simple allergies, though, like the price of EpiPens is still ridiculously high. Like they've never like lowered that price. I think they lowered that price by like $15, and that was supposed to be their big.
The Biden administration lowered it.
Yeah.
So the Biden administration lowered EpiPens and insulin by we'll have to look this up.
I'm just saying, imagine like how many kids are born with an allergy, like a lot. How many kids are born with, or like how many kids end up getting diabetes? Like some kids are born with diabetes. They need insulin and people are dying from rationing their insulin.
I know.
In America. So.
They are. And it's still saying that like without insurance. Okay, so without insurance, an EpiPen or EpiPen Junior package can cost between $650 and $750.
Mm-hmm.
The price can vary depending on the pharmacy. And then it gives you like a list of how much it costs per pharmacy. So CVS starts at $359, and then Kroger has like one of the highest. No, it's Walgreens. Walgreens has the highest one at $601.97.
Wow.
For one.
For one.
That's crazy.
And I remember because I had to have one because I signed up to be a guinea pig in these trials for like certain immune conditions. So it's supposed to like kind of slowly introduce whatever you're allergic to into your body by injections over time, and that's supposed to kind of help with the immunity boosting. So like they did mine with environmental factors, because I remember I had to be like a bubble boy the first like 12 years of my life because I just was not acclimated to any sort of way into the outside world, just because every little thing would trigger an immune response in my body so severe that like my parents were terrified to take me anywhere out that was like outside. Yeah. So I had a very
and all of
interesting
these
childhood.
things are like things that, you know, like it sounds like it worked out. Sounds like your parents were amazing about it. But imagine like them what they had to go through, like to deal with all that, like to be, you know, to even figure that out. Probably had to take you around to a bunch of doctors, like all this stuff. I mean, that's stuff people really don't think about. I also love, Sovereign, when you talk about just like the financial aspect of it. Like, can you share more with us about that?
I never want to be put in a position where I have to choose between some Urban Decay eyeshadow palette that's like $50 or $60 and diapers. You know what I mean? Like
diapers are also like $50-$60 depending.
Yeah.
Right.
No, seriously.
Or my favorite perfume now, that's YSL Overred, Black Opium Overred is my favorite perfume.
Yes.
Oh my God. Listen, I've had 2.5 bottles of that in the last few months. So, and you only get 6 ounces. It's $1.30. And I've been trying to make it last, but that is my favorite scent.
It's expensive to be a bad bitch.
Period.
But seriously, I can't get my perfume. I gotta buy a fucking diaper bag or like, and I'm being silly when I say that, but I never want to be in that position. That is real.
Yeah.
Like I can't buy the things that I want to buy now for years to come because kids are super expensive. And I just think about like if I got pregnant and let's say I was having a baby, I would have to quit my job. And then if I quit my job, now I can't pay my bills or my rent. So now I'm going to be somewhere in a shelter with a kid. And I know that might sound drastic, but I am dead serious. Because I don't live my life depending on other people. Like that's just not how my brain works. And so I wouldn't want to live with anybody. I probably could. A big chunk of my family are all dead. So even if I thought I wanted or thought I had a village, I don't. I'm just thinking about how it would turn my world completely upside down. Like I wouldn't have any extra money to do anything. And for me, my happiness would be gone. Like it would just be depleted. Like I would just wake up every day depressed, sad, trying to keep it together for my kid, but deep down I would be dying inside. You know, and I don't think I would be a bad mother. I just know I wouldn't be a happy one. That's my biggest thing, is just like being happy. I like being in a good mood. I like not having to worry about stuff. And I would be such a worry wart with a kid, you know?
You'd have to be, because they're always like trying to off themselves somehow. They're crazy.
Like
That's so true.
putting like forks in sockets.
I know, right?
You gotta baby-proof everything.
Chemicals. That's another thing.
Yeah.
I'm not baby-proofing
Eating
nothing.
Tide Pods.
Do you hear me?
No, seriously.
The thought of that gives me, I'm sitting here thinking about that now and I'm starting to get anxiety. Like I would literally have to baby-proof my house. What?
You have to get those ugly little doorknob covers and like
stair gates,
pantry locks,
gates for the stairs, and like what?
And all of that is products that they want you to buy. I'm so serious.
That's another thing. Yeah,
it's a huge industry. And yeah, I don't know. I always think of like the thing that solidified being child-free for me and my husband was when like we had a lot of friends we used to go to church, and we had a lot of friends that started having babies really young. So like people would be like 21, 22 announcing their pregnancy. Wow. And one of those couples, we were hanging out with them like a couple months after they had their kid. And obviously we're kind of like, how's it been? Like what, you know, like what advice do you have? Like, what do you like it? Like, would you recommend it basically? And the guy was like, he said something that like rewired my brain. He goes, you know, it's an interesting thing. He's like, if you like your life now, Like if you're happy right now, then you would probably not like your life with a kid. You probably wouldn't like having kids.
Wow.
And if you don't like your life now, then you'd probably like love having kids. Like he's like, for us, it's like, it's not that we don't like our life right now, but it's mostly that we've always known this was the next step for us. So it's always felt like, we're having fun right now, we're enjoying it, but something's missing. Like we want a family, we want a kid, we want to do that. And in the moment that he said that, like my husband and I looked at each other and we've known ever since. We've known ever since because we're like, yeah, you're so right. Like it was one of those things that's like, wait, yeah, we don't have to have a kid. Like it was just once again like, yeah, we don't have to do this. Like nobody is like putting a gun to our head. Like, and if we do, it's going to change our lives really fundamentally in a way that we're probably not going to like because we really like the life that we have now. And I mean, yeah, if that's helpful to anyone else, I hope it is because that really helped us to sort of like get our priorities, be like, wait, that's a really good question.
And another myth of the whole thing that there's women out there who believe that having babies with a man is going to bring y'all closer together. The one thing that I've seen all my life is that kids accelerate the breakup process.
Every time.
So if you're thinking that if you want to have kids, have them because you want them. But if you're thinking that it's going to bring y'all closer together, it is not going to do that. And I lost count. I can't even tell y'all how many stories that I've heard of women finding out that their boyfriends or baby daddies or whoever were cheating on them while they were laid up in the hospital pregnant. That's typically when they do it the most because you're out of commission, you're tired all the time, you're nauseated, you're not feeling well, and they feel neglected even before the baby gets there. So they be out, a lot of times they'll be out cheating on you or doing other things. And then when that baby comes, they're going to, some guys, we know not all men do this, but a lot of them get jealous of the baby. You have to spend more time keeping the baby alive. And they're sitting there like, oh, but she's not paying me any attention anymore. I cheated because she's been ignoring me. Yeah. And I'm just like, what? But I can't tell y'all how many times I've heard that.
For real. There was this Chinese man who gave his wife like the silent treatment for almost a decade because he was jealous of the way that she was treating their child. Like giving it more attention than him. I'll have to pull up that article.
Yeah. Before we came on, I was watching this video. It's called, the channel on YouTube is called China. Let me see. They're basically being punished in China for not having kids now. Like getting their roofs ripped off their houses and all types of stuff.
In Russia, they just banned talking about being child-free.
I know. Ain't that crazy?
Yeah. Wow.
The China Observer is what it's called on YouTube. China's shocking birth policy from only one child to childless. So now if you're childless, or they said they have something called I can't remember the name, but there's like a agency that calls women to hound them. Like, are you pregnant yet? Are you having kids yet? You just got married. I thought it was a joke. Cause I'm like, there's no way this is real. God. But I'm like halfway through it. It was about how many minutes? I want to say maybe about an hour. Oh, no, it wasn't an hour. Sorry. It was 19 minutes. But yeah, it's getting crazy everywhere with this whole thing. I think it really boils down to they gave women our rights, which they never had the right to take in the first place. But they gave us our rights back, and they're seeing now what women would rather do. And they don't like that women are choosing solo life. Women are lesbian, which more power to them because sometimes being attracted to men can be a burden sometimes. So dang. But women are choosing careers and women are choosing a child-free life, and they can't have it. Like in their minds, they don't want to get to the bottom of why women are not having kids. They just want to force us. And that alone is going to solidify my decision to not have kids, because all I can think of is there's no way in the hell I'm bringing kids into a world like this to deal with people like that.
Yeah.
So all they're doing is like clamping my womb down and gluing it shut even more. Like, I'm already not going to have kids, but y'all trying to force us. I'm definitely not, just out of spite.
I'm
now.
Gonna not have kids harder.
Right.
Yeah.
Out of complete spite now. Rebellion. Sheer rebellion. But yeah,
Me
I would
too.
hate myself if I had kids, honestly. Because I would literally be like, why did I fucking do that? I've actually had dreams like that.
Oh
Nightmares.
my God, me
Oh,
too.
You have?
And I'm terrible with the babies. I always lose them and
same.
I can never find them again.
Really?
Oh,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
I wonder if that's because,
It's horrifying.
yeah.
Oh my God.
I wonder if that's because, like, when we were young, or like Lisa, whenever you were in the church, did they ever like fear monger you or like scare tactic you into like making sure that like, you know, your legs stay
Oh,
closed
yeah.
and, you know, don't have kids and it's like the teen pregnancy scare and all that. Like, because that was drilled into us hard. Because
Oh, absolutely.
living in Texas, like abstinence was like the thing. Like that's the only thing that they would teach in these schools to kids. It's that like abstinence is like best practice. Like if you can't, like they said something about leaving like a pill between your legs and like that's enough space. If a pill
God.
can't pass through your legs, then that
What?
means that like your legs are staying tight. Yeah, I don't know. It was
So
something about.
weird.
I know. I remember that, and that was like my was it high school or sixth? It was at least sixth grade because that's when we first started talking about like you know the female body and the changing, and we had to like be put into separate rooms. So like one room was for the boys and one was for the girls, and then for the girls like the gym teacher had held up like an aspirin. And she said, if you can't fit this between your legs are too wide open.
Oh
And we
That
were in
is
sixth
great.
grade.
Oh my
we were
God,
little.
That's fucking terrible.
Yeah. So
That's
that
crazy.
did something to my brain. I don't know.
Oh my
All
God.
right.
They put the fear God in us, and we're like 12.
It's terrible.
There's
I know.
there's better, more efficient ways to do that. I get it. If it worked, it worked. You know, if it got you to not become a teen
guess, but-
mom, but that's just over the top to me. There was better ways to
Well,
do that.
that's what got me to not become a teen mom was 16 and pregnant.
Oh, I remember
When I
that
watched that show,
Yeah,
I
that
was
TV
like,
show.
not gonna be me.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
not gonna be me.
definitely. Definitely not.
That and like I always saw like people my own age when they had kids, and like this would be like my early college years, so like 19, 20, 21, and the girls that had kids at that age, like, they were miserable. Like those girls looked like they never got any sleep, and they always had like
They
dark
probably
circles.
didn't.
Not that there's anything
They
wrong
probably
with that,
didn't.
but like
No, they
you
probably
could just tell like
didn't.
they just were not happy, and that always made me really sad and fearful that like that could be me. So I always did everything in my power to like not not have a kid because I couldn't imagine just that bit of resilience that you have to have. Like it's just not in me. I am not God's strongest warrior, so I will admit that.
You know, one thing that I always talked about, real quick. I was just gonna say, when we get back to the topic of we're too young to say, oh, we don't have enough life experience, whatever, to say that we don't want kids. But it's so funny, you know, because they always say you're gonna change your mind when you're older or whatever. But it's so funny how you can never be too young to say that you do want kids, but you can be too young to say that you don't want them. And that has
That's how you know it's
always,
propaganda.
that has
Yep.
always like bothered me. No one ever tells a 12-year-old who says, I want to have kids one day. Oh, are you sure you want to have kids one day? I think you're going to change your mind when you get older. Nobody ever does that. But if that same 12-year-old said, I don't want to have kids, oh, you are met with nothing but scrutiny and ridicule and everything, doubt and everything else.
So what could be the advice that we have for young girls? Because if it's as you say that like, you know, there's just no way we could, you know, be able to vet out this process in our partners because they just switch up and they'll switch up on you when you least expect it, when you're laid up in the hospital and you think your baby daddy's coming to be in the room with you and he really just out there just living his best whole life. What could be something that we say to young girls that are looking for any sort of advice? Because like maybe they do want to have a child with a reliable partner, but they just are unsure and they have, you know, trust issues now about who they would be able to pick.
So the first thing I would tell this young lady and any other young woman listening is first be very clear about if you truly want kids and why you want them. So you have to know if it's something that you want deep down or if it's something that you think you're supposed to do because society or your family is trying to pressure you into it. A lot of times women have not taken the time to really think about it. It's just a default position for a lot of women and they find themselves in very difficult situations because they didn't take the time to think about that. So that's the first step. Figure out if that's something that you want. Then you got to figure out if you have a kid, how are you going to factor that into your life? Because whether or not that man sticks around because you don't know, that's your baby. Okay, that's going to be your kid no matter what. And you have to be mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially ready to take care of that kid as if you have nobody on this planet. And I'm not saying that if you have a village, that's great. A lot of women end up not having one. A lot of women go into pregnancy having a village and end up not having a village as well. Because people die, people move away, people fall out. So you have to know, and I hate to say this, but I say this a lot on my platforms, you have to go into motherhood in these days, this day and age, expecting to be a single mother. And you have to ask yourself, can I do this alone? Now, it's not to say that you are absolutely going to be a single mother, but it's just saying that your chances are very high, because it doesn't matter what your socioeconomic background is, what your race is, what your culture is. Women are facing being single mothers all over the world every day for various reasons. And I hate to bring this up, but I have to. You have to look at all the good and the bad of having kids. The number one cause of death in pregnant women is homicide. And it's usually done at the hands of the man who you're pregnant by. You have to know that. Not saying that it happens to most women, but it does happen to a lot of women. Also, most women who have become single mothers or who have been married single mothers or divorced single mothers, many of them will tell you that their husbands or baby daddies switched up on them either shortly after finding out that they got pregnant or shortly after, sometime after they had the baby. That's another thing that you have to take into consideration. Just be in a place mentally that you will be taking care of this kid just in case that man leaves. Even if you pick a really good guy, I mean, something could happen to him. He can become disabled. He could die in a car accident. And I'm not saying any of this to be fear-mongering or to scare you, but a lot of people have babies and they don't think about any of this stuff until after it's too late. So I'm going to always give the advice to really think it through. Child-free women, myself, Gwen, Lisa, many of the people on social media who are doing child-free content, we've thought long and hard about the ramifications of being a mother, all the things that could go right, all the things that could go wrong. And we made up in our minds that it wasn't worth the risk. So you have to put a lot of thought into it because many people don't. So I would say just think about that. And if you choose not to have kids, that's great as well. Don't let anybody sway you from your decision because they will try all day, every day.
Yes.
They're going to disparage you and say something's wrong with you. You're not a real woman. You're not going to have anybody to take care of you when you're old. You're going to be an old, dusty cat lady, lonely. People are going to try you. If you decide to be child-free, maybe consider sterilization. I'm not saying you should or you have to do that, but I'm saying think about it, especially with these laws coming up in January. Yes. You have to be proactive about your reproduction. I also love Lisa's explanation on when she says she would have kids if she could be the dad. That's the video that I chose, by the way, that I was telling you about earlier.
Oh, yay.
I absolutely love that video. So I'll kick it to you, Lisa. I like when you explain that to people, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. If people it's just one of my best go-to answers. You know, me and my husband have been married for a while. So people have asked us over the years, like, when are you guys going to have kids? And we decided pretty early on that we weren't, but we were sort of keeping it vague because then it's like, what if we change our mind? I don't know. And we never have. And that is just one of the things that I have found that leaves people speechless. So if you're in a similar situation as me and you have like a bunch of relatives coming up to you at all the get-togethers being like, so like, are you guys gonna have kids? Are you thinking about it? Are you planning on it? And that's just my go-to answer. I'll always say, if I could be the dad, we would have like 12 kids. And it's just my favorite part is watching the wheels turn in people's minds like in real time, because they want to open their mouth and say something to me, but they can't. Mm-hmm. Like they literally can't, because you can't argue with the fact that it's so easy for a man to decide to have a kid. And I was going to add too, to like the advice thing, if a man seems really, really, really eager to have a kid, if you're if you're not in that mindset, if you're not expressing like so much that you're, baby crazy or whatever, that you're ready to have kids, and a man is like really eager, like really wants to get you pregnant, really doing all that, just remember it's very, very easy for a man. It's easy for a man to get you pregnant and then never think about it again. It's easy for him to just, feel like he has that kind of power over you. I literally just watched this happen to a friend where a man, he was like way older and he was talking about having kids with her. And she was like, yeah, I'm actually going to apply to be a surrogate. And he got so mad. And he was like, well, we had plans, we were talking about all this. And she was like, what? No, we didn't. Like, you said you want to have kids with me. Like, I said, maybe someday in the future, right? And they had plans to go out of town together, and she ended up ditching him and ghosting him. And I was so glad that she did, because I was like, because they were already on the verge of breaking up, and he was like, yeah, let's just do this one last trip, this one last hurrah. And she was like, yeah, he was probably just gonna, try to get, some out of it. And I was like, I think he was gonna try to get you pregnant. I think I'm really glad you didn't go. Or worse, exactly. Because a lot of men seem to think that it's like an honor to tell women that they want to have kids with them. They try to flatter
they really
women.
Do.
Isn't that funny?
God, it's so disgusting.
And that's why I just really, exactly, because I just want women to think about it critically. Like, it's so easy for a man to tell you these things. And I'm telling y'all, I'm probably no better than a man, because if it wasn't, that difficult for like having to do the whole gestation and the pregnancy and the pushing out a baby, I'd be so excited to have a baby. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I still think it's hard, and I appreciate that my husband has a very realistic view of it. Like, he's like, no, he's not the type to like romanticize it. He's like, he used to do that, and he realized how foolish that was, because he's like, no, it's really 90% like diapers, crying, feeding, formula, stress. Are they sick? Are they not sick? And that's the first like couple of years of your life.
Right.
And most people are not in a great position to be dealing with that.
Nope.
Just most of us, like, frankly, most of us are not in a great position to be dealing with that. You have to be really well prepared. And we've watched a lot of our friends over the years, get ready to have kids, and, they'll get pregnant, and we'll be like, so do you guys feel like you're ready, whatever? And they're like, what? No, haven't really thought about it. And it's like, oh, okay, well, good luck. I mean, I don't know.
Right. Oh my God. I don't know. That is so horrible.
You just really have to think critically, because then we get, moms come on TikTok and then they start talking about their struggles. And I'm so thankful for that. I know a lot of people, will be like, oh, you're whining on the internet. You chose to have the kid, whatever. No, I'm glad, because that's what went into my choice. That helped me make a choice. I'm so glad people were honest and forthright. And all the good parents I know will be like, don't do it if you don't want to.
Yep.
Everyone that actually cares about their kids and has a good relationship with their kids, and you can tell puts effort into parenting, is like, don't do it.
Absolutely, they do.
Two types of people. I'm so sorry. Anybody that's telling you, oh, it's not hard. Oh, you don't have to, you don't have to buy this or get that. Like, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. I do not want to know what your child is going through at home, because what are you talking about?
Go ahead and give yourself permission to Google regretful mothers. Just type it in Google, and a million and one posts, Reddit or articles. There's a lot of authors who've written books about regretting motherhood. There's a lot of women out there who regret becoming a mother. And a lot of times their regret will kick in right away. Their postpartum depression never goes away. And I did a video earlier in the year on TikTok, and I said there are 3 types of parents out there. And I'm just really quick. The 3 types of parents, category A, B, and C. So category A are parents who absolutely love being parents. No matter how hard it is, no matter how challenging it is, they find it so rewarding. And it's like the best thing they've ever done. And they will tell you about it like, hey, usually their mindset is motherhood or fatherhood is not for everybody. So think long and hard about if you want to have kids, but it is very rewarding for me. They're not going to try to push their beliefs on you.
Nope.
They're not going to be belittling to you. They're not going to do anything. Hey, to each his own. do you. Category B are parents who regret having their kids, and they will tell you that they regret having their kids. They're like, look, I love my kids. I would do anything for them. They're my life. I would take a bullet for them.
Multiple people like that in my life.
But if I could do this, if I could do it over, I would not have kids. Category 3 are just like category 2, except they will never admit it. And to me, those are the ones who are secretly miserable. They're the ones who are going to give you snide remarks and, insults about how you're not a real woman if you don't have kids and your life is meaningless and you're going to be old and alone with cats. Those are the ones. So for me personally, it's very easy to spot the secretly miserable parents. It's those ones who just don't know how to let people be. I've even had women threaten, they would wish twins and triplets on me. So I'm like, they're like, oh, I hope you get pregnant, and I hope you get pregnant with twins. And then another lady told me triplets one time. This was like years apart. I was in 2 different states. Crazy work, right?
Messed up. That's messed up.
But what are they? I laughed because all you did was confirm to me that parenting sucks. And it sucks so much that you want it to happen to me twice or 3 times. They literally told on themselves. So I already sense that parenting is miserable for a lot of people. And also, category A, the parents who really love it, I think they make up the smallest percentage of people. This is just my own personal opinion.
I agree.
I say 10% or less of the population. Just my own personal opinion.
We have just now figured out how to really even work with kids and emotional regulation and finding that line between gentle parenting and consequences and things like that.
Right.
Back when you had a kid before, it was for them to be a farmhand. We're also very close to that. Do you know what I mean? My dad was one of those kids.
Farmhand is so cool. It just sounds funny to me. I don't know why. I get a kick out of that. I don't know. A farm.
I'm from Ukraine. I'll tell you guys straight up. People really did have 12 kids on a farm.
Oh, I know.
So they could run the farm.
Yeah, it made sense back then, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah.
But now.
And you did, and now it's your kids are going to be needing soft skills when they go into the workforce. They're not, you can't just treat them like a little animal and have them sleeping wherever. They need to have they need to feel safe in the world. They need to be able to go out there and get an office job.
Right.
They need to be emotionally regulated. And we're just now figuring out how to do all that. So parenting, that's why I totally agree with you about the good parents, because there's just not that many people that have even seen the value of investing in your children like that. A lot of people will be like, oh, gentle parenting is this and that, just hit your kids. And it's okay, well, see, this is why, and then it's what kind of relationship are you going to have with somebody you're hitting all the time?
Exactly.
And that's why you're a miserable parent, because you're not actually taking the time. The good parents I know are listening to their kids' big feelings and spending their whole day just, making sure them and their siblings are getting along nicely, making sure they have skills to go out there into the world, not just shut up and play on your iPad and leave me alone.
Right.
If you could ever see that yourself doing that to a kid, don't have kids.
Absolutely.
Just don't. Just don't do it.
Please.
Because you're going to think that so much more than you think.
And these parents better be careful nowadays, because these millennials and Gen Zs are going no contact.
Yep.
With no remorse whatsoever.
Exactly.
And if you had kids for the sole purposes of having somebody to take care of you when you're older, you better not be hitting your kids. You better not be disrespectful to them. You better validate their feelings, because they will go no contact with you.
Yep.
And you will be the one in a nursing home with nobody coming to visit. So I'm just saying,
And let me tell you, I was about to say my husband's worked at a care facility, for older people. He's nobody comes to visit them.
Nope.
Especially not their kids.
And there was always just a handful of residents out of 100, 150, whatever the number was, that had kids that come visit them, not every day. Some, I would say a couple of them had kids that come almost every day. But the vast majority of them, they didn't have kids that come a couple times a year, maybe, if that. And then a lot of them who did have kids come every blue moon, it was really just to see if they could get some kind of a lawsuit.
Yeah. or like see where
to
they're
wait for
at
you
in
to
the
die.
inheritance.
Yeah, see where if you're gonna die, who's gonna get the house, who's gonna get the car, who's gonna get whatever. I seen it for 18 years. I'm telling you, you just don't. Child-free women, I've seen them, and it wasn't that many of them, but the ones that I knew had people there all the time, just because they cultivated a lot of relationships throughout their life. So it could be nieces, nephews, neighbors, people from church, sorority sisters. Yeah. So that's something for people to think about.
So yeah, ladies, I think the bottom line is think about it. Think hard. Do your research. Know the risks. Know the risks to you. Know the risks to the baby. Know your financial situation.
Yes.
Know where you're at in life. Know who your village is. And keep in mind that a lot of boomer parents too, they'll encourage you to have kids. They'll say they're going to watch them, and then they just don't. They don't show up. So read those stories. Go type in, like Sovereign said, type in regretful parents. Sovereign has an incredible wealth of videos on just child-free, like these 3 different type of parents video. That was actually one of my favorites. Now that you like reminded me of the content, I remember I reposted that. I wish I could have reposted it 100 times because it explains the situation so well of like the messaging that you're getting. You know, if somebody's trying to convince you to be a parent and they're not, it's over right there. Because they shouldn't be trying to convince you to do anything.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And especially if they're not coming at it from the place of like, it's incredibly hard and you should think about it. If they're like, oh no, girl, it's going to be great. It's going to be fun. Like, we'll do it together. Don't do it.
Don't do it because misery
Don't
loves
be
company.
Stupid. Yes.
You heard it here first. No, I'm just playing.
All right. We'll see you guys in the mailbag segment. Welcome to our mailbag segment. Let's see what we have in the bag today. As you all may know by now, we're not saying people's names for these. We're keeping these very anonymous, so we can't refer to y'all by name. But this lovely human being says, "Hi, I'm in dire need of your advice. I'm the older sister to a couple of young boys. They are 16, 10, and 8. And I really love them all. However, they have so many men and women in their lives with extremely, extremely misogynistic and red-pilled point of views. They are still young and empathetic and don't understand misogyny yet. And I want advice on how to influence and raise them in the right direction. What are some actions I can take to lead them toward feminism? I know that if I do nothing, the patriarchy will suck them in. I've tried to have these conversations with them, but the topic is so big, I don't even know where to start. Best, a struggling sister." She also said, "P.S. I love all of your content, and I've been listening to all of your TikToks for over the past year. This podcast is my dream come true." Thank you so
awesome.
much.
Thank you.
That's so kind of you. Thank you. We really appreciate you.
That's always a hard question for me.
Yeah.
The reason why I feel like it's hard is because I have a very biased sort of outlook on that, which is I feel like most guys are going to be sucked up into the patriarchy no matter what.
Yep.
And it's up to them after they get in it to hopefully grow up and mature and see the error of that and like change on their own.
Yeah, I don't think it's up to women.
How old did she say her sons were?
So it's her brothers, and
brothers.
they're 16, 10, and 8.
Oh God. The 16-year-old.
He might be just like a little far up the road because that age is like when you really start to
listen to
like
peers.
In high school.
Yeah.
So the 8 and 10, and it sucks because a lot of boys will respond well to it at first until they face that peer pressure. It's very strong. You kind of have to understand where they're coming from too.
The best advice I can give is to put the younger two, and maybe if you can get the oldest one, into some kind of like martial arts or some kind of program where it teaches them structure and discipline, because boys need that. If they don't have structure or discipline, they're just going to go off the rails and just do what they want. They'll sit around and play video games all day or whatever if you don't have them on a schedule and also at the same time teaching them self-control, self-discipline, things like that. That is very important. I feel like if boys are taught the importance of self-discipline, mostly everything else falls into place, like by default. That's just my own personal opinion on that. Getting them to not feed into like misogynistic mind or ideals or red pill type of content and stuff is going to be very difficult.
It's a little bit of a canon event for boys.
It is, because they're always if they don't have a positive male role model in their lives, and it could be anybody, it doesn't necessarily have to be their father.
It sounds like they have negative, like extremely misogynistic people surrounding them. So that's terrible.
What does Ryan think?
Oh, that's a good, I mean.
We'll ask our producer.
What I'll say is Ryan and I actually watched this really, really good documentary a couple of years ago in the office on our downtime that was called The Mask We Wear. And it's all about just how boys are trained into the patriarchy. The first little cracks, that are shown to them, the first kind of peer interactions that make them the way that, they are, that really show the patriarchy to them. That's kind of what it's about. And it's a really, really great piece to sort of explore that toxic masculinity side of things and just how boys are fed into that machine. So Ryan's advice in a nutshell is basically to this young lady specifically, whenever you're dealing with misogynistic views coming from or just happening around your little brothers, like if they ever come home and say something crazy, or if you hear somebody else saying something crazy and you see them kind of starting to agree with it, he said that a really effective thing to do is to be like, well, I'm a woman, or like, do you feel the same way about me? How does that make you feel about me? Do you feel the same way about me? And trying to force them to empathize and relate it rather than to generalize and dehumanize women as a whole, which is a place where you can't really come back from. That's where you need to catch them right there and say, but do you feel the same way about me? I know they said this about women and this, but is that how you feel? Would you say that to my face? So he said that that would be effective. And I do really see, I see how that would be effective. I actually really love that strategy.
Me too.
And then he also said that they're probably looking for a male role model, someone who's like displays masculinity, but at the same time is not on that red pill side of things. And we'll put some creators in the recommendations along with that documentary that I talked about. But there's quite a few TikTok and YouTube creators that make it a point to speak to these things in a way that comes from that masculine place that boys are more likely to listen to, because that's just what's been presented to them as, these are the people you should listen to. Yeah. These are the people you should admire. And there's plenty of men out there like that, not enough, but there's plenty of men out there like that that have platforms that can speak to and debunk this kind of stupid red pill ideology that they just unfortunately might be more likely to listen to than it coming from a woman, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with his point of view as well. When asking them, do you feel the same way about me? Of course, they're most likely going to say no, or, possibly. Then, you can kind of hit it home where it's like, okay, well, then all women clearly are not like that, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely will help to humanize and help the boys to empathize with women in general.
At least take it on a case-by-case basis.
A case-by-case basis, yeah. And it's very important for them to have both sides. Like, instead of them going down this like rabbit hole, this one-sided rabbit hole, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, his advice was great. I love that suggestion so much.
Thank you, Ryan. Producer Rai coming in.
Did you say Rai?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. We really hope that this was helpful. Please write in if you need any more resources, or if you feel like that wasn't, didn't quite get the scope. We try our best out here, but yes, some of the questions are lengthy, and we appreciate y'all giving so much context. It's just hard to address everything all at once, but hopefully that helps, and we're sending our love to you and to the boys. Hopefully yes, they find some good role models to look up to and learn to empathize.
Yep, I agree.
Awesome. Well, best of luck to you. Please make sure you write into the mailbag if you have questions that we can answer. Please check out the Patreon. If you would like exclusive content, we have VIP tiers We also have support-only tiers with various amounts that you can pay. We have a tip jar. Anything helps, honestly, y'all, just to help keep this operation going, to help us keep growing and not being silenced on these other platforms where we are being silenced. And honestly, frankly, a lot of these platforms are going away, so we need to find new and better places to congregate. And I have really been loving the idea of the Patreon community and the feedback and the exclusive content that we're able to post in there. So please be sure you check that out. Follow all of us on our social medias. Please share this podcast with your friends and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating. And we will see you next week. Bye.